I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to explain what today's post was about with us talking about template training programs, how we at Strength and Endurance strongly believe that they are one of the leading factors to why so many people are struggling with overtraining. And what we're going to be going through today is just 5 of the key areas that potentially aren't considered enough when it comes to a balanced training program. So if you're someone who wants to run, ride, swim, you've got a multi-sport training goal that you've got working towards. Now, we work with all different types and working towards all different types of training goals, but there is a simplicity, an oversimplicity when it comes to working towards a running goal, a swimming goal, a multi-sport training goal, where you can just purchase a program and just by following a 12, 16, 20-week program, that you're going to get to that start line. You're going to be able to do that successfully. You're going to do that pain-free. But what the evidence, and this is obviously the evidence that we speak to people with on a daily basis, is that they are struggling. There is a massive struggle out there where people are struggling to train consistently, hit all their sessions. They're having to adjust the programming that they're working to. But more importantly, they're injured and they are failing to get to that start line, or they are constantly in this vicious cycle. And it's because the only focus is when it comes to kind of taking part in an event is the training itself. They're not thinking about the other components of what make up a complete comprehensive training program. What are they? Well, you've got the training aspect. That's kind of the easy bit. Running, riding, swimming, hopefully doing some form of strength conditioning. That is the training element. That is the bit that you want to do. That is the bit that you're passionate about doing. But then there's the other aspects. There's understanding your nutrition, the amount of energy availability you've required to maintain that level of training. Understanding that you've got to have a healthy relationship with nutrition, and you've got to be fueling appropriately, and you've got to, whatever diet you follow, are you getting enough macronutrients in? When you're looking at your recovery, do you have a healthy relationship with recovery within your training program? Are you then making sure that you are getting enough rest? What is your relationship with rest? Are you someone who just constantly wants to train? And that is something that is, is potentially desirable, but we want you to be, we need you to be completing X amount of sessions a week, etc. But we've got to make sure that you're getting adequate recovery in. Psychology, understanding your mindset towards training, understanding the other stresses in your life, managing your bandwidth. Integrating a training program into your lifestyle is one of the hardest things about being a coach. You've got X amount of volume of training you want someone to be doing. How is it actually going to appropriately fit into someone's lifestyle? The biggest thing about template training programs is that you are assuming that 16-week training model, that 5 days, 6 days a week of training, is then just going to be able to fit that into your lifestyle. Massive, massive assumption for someone who is coming back from an injury, who hasn't trained in 10 plus years. You're going to have to work very hard to find that appropriate amount of time. And it's not fair, because a lot of the time that model that you've picked up, that training program that you're working from, isn't appropriate for you. It's poor design for you, but there is an assumption that just by finding a downloaded PDF from online, grabbing a screenshot, a screen grab of a 12-week template, buying a program for $49.99, or working from a training app that's asking you a brief series of questions. They're not asking the right questions about you, and what you're doing is you're setting yourself up to fail. Now, I understand when it comes to training templates and programs, it's cheap, it's easy, it's a quick go-to, it's a quick grab. And we see this at events where they're handing them out for the next event. Work through this training program. Here's your 12-week training program. You see it in magazines, you're seeing it in blogs. There is a duty of care when you are supplying someone with a training program. You are asking them to be able to do more volume, more intensity over the next number of weeks. You're assuming that you should be asking them whether they are physically capable to do so. To just ask someone, here's the work you've got to be doing, start fitting into your lifestyle, off you go. You are going to be overloading that individual very quickly, or if not, then they're going to be getting the work done at their expense somewhere along the line. When it comes to working from a training program that is going to fit in with your lifestyle, it's going to be something that's individualized to you. It's going to be taking into consideration who you are, what your lifestyle looks like, what other stresses you have going on in your life, what time you have available to train. These are the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to working from a training program, and when you're trying to build out someone's training program. What is their true capacity for work? What is their true mental bandwidth going to allow for? What we see is chronic overtraining. People who are significantly struggling, to be able to turn up and do the sessions they need to. And as a result, They're either adjusting the sessions themselves, so they're taking what's in front of them and they're making those adjustments themselves, hoping that they're doing the right thing. Or you're seeing people trying to fit this work into their week, and they're quickly becoming overwhelmed. They are certainly redlining it. They are sacrificing sleep. They're sacrificing time with their family. They're sacrificing their body because they're starting to pick up niggles and injuries along the way. And at best, they make it to the start line. And at best, they complete the event. But what we're seeing is this chronic aftermath of people picking up these long-term tendinopathies, these bone stress injuries, overtraining symptoms, sickness. You're seeing, and it's, if you just look at any of the current research over the last 2 decades, there is a chronic correlation between the increase in running events and runners and multiple athletes and an epidemic of injury. And it's because the application of how we're going about training individuals is unbelievably simplified. We are literally just hoping that we can take a very complex thing, which is training for a half marathon, even a 10K. Like, there's a complexity to that. If you're someone who hasn't done that in a very long time or is coming back from a long-term injury, there is a complexity to getting you up to that kind of that regular level of volume and intensity. If you're someone who is aspiring towards doing your first ultra, 50K, 100K, 100 miles, there is a complexity to that. And I believe that it's been oversimplified. There is this reduction mindset where you're trying to break it down into this, if I just do these 5 days of work, 6 sessions a week, and I'll just keep ramping my volume up with a slight deload every couple of weeks, I'm going to get there. But if you're not looking at the bigger picture, you're not constantly being held accountable to your nutrition, constantly being held accountable to the amount of recovery, constantly being held accountable to the psychology of it all, how you're integrating all of this into your week, managing those other stresses and other responsibilities you have in your week. You're not looking at the physiological side of things. I mean, this is one of the biggest ones we don't hear enough about. Is everyone we work with, we want to understand their bloods, we want to understand their hormones to a certain level, because we want to understand that relationship alongside their nutrition. Why? Well, because there's this ever increasing expectation on the body, and if you don't understand that what's going on underneath the skin, again, we're making an assumption that body can tolerate all that work that's coming up. Again, a 16-week, 20-week, 24-week program that you're working from, that is template, where there's no interaction, there's no hard-hitting questions being asked. How are you managing the workload? How's your body feeling? What's your nutrition look like this week? Do you feel like your body's recovering? Do you feel like you've got more to give? Do you feel like you're physically capable to move to this next level of volume? Like, there's none of this conversation going on. Let alone, is there any S&C going alongside this? Do we have any clear areas of weakness that we need to be working on? Or are we going to continue to compound and overload those areas? It's just this massive level of care that is not being considered when it comes to training programs. And if you're young, maybe you're getting away with it. Maybe your body is rebounded and can tolerate it, and you've got an athletic background that allows you to just throw sessions that, be able to work through a bunch of sessions week to week. But the reality is that we all lead complex, busy lifestyles. And when you're trying to bring in these types of training goals into your life, you're aspiring towards, the next 6 months of training towards an ultra event, an Ironman event, a multi-day event. What are the key variables that you've got to be considering along the way? What sort of interaction are you going to need? You're going to be needing some level of accountability along the way. And that is just quality conversation on a weekly basis around all those variables we talked about: nutrition, recovery, your basic physiology, how's your body feeling? Do you have a regular menstrual cycle? Do you have a regular period? Are you struggling with any sort of sexual libido? Like, men and women will struggle with this. Like, there are signs and symptoms everywhere when it comes to this. Are you navigating the menopause right now? Like, you're working for a template program. How is this ever being considered? It's not. And, if you want to crack on and carry on following these template programs, have at it. But there is strong evidence everywhere that the root of the problem of so many overtraining issues, people that are struggling with long-term tendinopathies, struggling with massive setbacks, reoccurring injury themes, it's because they're being overtrained. You're being overtrained in multiple different areas of your program, because all you're doing is you're trying to simplify the approach that you're taking towards these events. So all I'd ever ask of you guys when it comes to this is don't simplify what you're taking on board. Just think about the bigger picture for yourself. Like, we are always talking about your health. If we can improve your levels of health, we're going to improve your levels of performance. Now, over the next number of months, I'm going to be breaking this down. I'm going to take more of an honest stance on this. I've been doing this for the best part of 10 plus years now. My wife's a professional athlete. I've worked in this space for a long time, and I've kind of sat on the fence when it comes to this, because the industry is rife with template-based programming. We're going into an era of AI, algorithm-based training programs, apps where you just enter in a certain amount of questions, answer a certain amount of questions about yourself, how many times a week you want to train, what sort of training volume do you want to be meeting, what distance are you working to, what time frame are you working to. But it's not asking the real questions. It's not asking whether you are physically capable to start that program. Do you have any reoccurring injury themes that we need to be addressing first? What is your nutritional requirements from the start? Where does that nutrition need to be in 6, 8, 10, 12, 16 weeks time? What does your current energy availability look like? Do you have a regular menstrual cycle? Do you have good hormonal status? These are really uncomfortable conversations to have, and they're complex, right? Because you're not gonna get that from AI, and you're not even going to answer it in a clear-cut way. You're going to probably bullshit it. The fact is, guys, these are the real questions that are going to give you this longevity. These are the questions that are going to give you the real answers to why you're struggling potentially, but also why you don't seem to get to your full potential, because you don't integrate enough strength and conditioning. You aren't periodizing your training enough. You're not being held back at the right times. I talked about how one of the hardest parts about being a coach is holding someone back. You're doing enough. Back off. You need a day off. We need to back up. Like any great coach will find this as the hardest part, because you're holding people back. And this is something that is very easy to do as a coach. Is just to keep giving people what they want. The hardest part about being a coach is giving people what they need. And sometimes that is that's where always the friction is going to be. But it always comes back to these 5 principles. We've lent into these principles, with everything that we do. It's a mantra that we work as a multidisciplinary team, physios, coaches, strength coaches, all working together to deliver our programming, because it's complex. You're working with someone who has had a disordered eating past, someone who's come back from complex injuries, someone who has been sedentary, working on their career for the last 20 years, and now they're coming back into wanting to do a 3-day sportive. They want to do a multi-day event. They want to run 100 miles. They want to do an Ironman event. Complex. What does that nutrition look like? What does their blood health look like? Why does that matter? Well, because you've got 6 months of training ahead of you. Can you tolerate that? There is a complexity to it. When we see this level of template programming in front of us, screen grabs, training apps, people watering programming down to its bare bones, and then giving it to people who are innocent, is negligence. It's a poor duty of care. As a coach, they're entrusting you to look after their health as well as their performance. Get me to that goal, but please, but help me maintain this just training lifestyle that I want. I love to run. I love to ride. I love to get out in the mountains. I love to get out and be in the water. I love to be out on the bike. But I don't want to break down with long-term injuries. I don't want to, struggle for the next 10 years with reoccurring injury themes, or never seeing the true fruition of all my work I'm putting in, because you've never been held accountable to those other areas. So template programming, it's at the root of so many issues. Like, it's one of the hardest questions. It's probably the simplest question to ask. Why are you struggling right now? Are you oversimplifying your training approach? Are you following an umbrella approach where you are following programming of, the same as everyone else in your group? You are unique. Every single person we work with has unique qualities and a unique training load. We can only put so much work on certain people because of their lifestyle, their family life, their work life. All I would ask you guys who are listening right now, listening to this as well, is the bigger picture. Think long term. Think about the other variables that make up a comprehensive training program. Whether it's running, riding, swimming, multi-sport, whatever your desired goals are, you've got to be having this approach, because it's just a logical way of making sure that we maintain all those areas that fundamentally will keep you doing what you love. All right. So thanks for joining me, guys, today. I'm going to jump in. If any questions you've got off the back of this, just message me. I'm going to do this a bit more regularly, just an opportunity just to kind of get to know you guys. But as I said, I'm going to be far more transparent in my thoughts about how we go about things here at SFE, but also the coaching model and the perspective that is being taken, that is somewhat neglecting a lot of these areas, does not bring in these other areas to the forefront enough. But this is why we see so many people struggling. Complete utter confidence in these other areas: recovery, nutrition, strength and conditioning, the way you periodize your programming, your understanding of physiology, understanding these other areas alongside how much training volume and intensity you're doing, you will be good for life. But it's always going to be changing and adjusting. But that's what we're looking for. We're looking to be able to give you those skill sets. All right, guys, have a lovely day. Enjoy the week.